Have you ever tried to find your home on a Sanborn Fire Insurance Map and then ran into roadblocks and you couldn't find it? Or maybe you haven't started looking yet, but you'd like to? In this video, I'm going to go over 3 different examples of scenarios you might encounter while looking for a home on a Sanborn Fire Insurance Map. I'll show you my process that I use when I look for a home on the Sanborn maps and also offer you my best practices along the way. I'll include the link to any websites I reference in this video in the description below, as well as listing any videos that I think are good for background information if you're totally new to Sanborn Fire Insurance Maps. If you're new here, I'm Jamelyn, and I love all things old, but this channel is specifically dedicated to my love of Sanborn maps. With that background info out of the way, let's get right to it. Our first example is going to take us to Watertown, Wisconsin, and we're going to look at this home at 919 Charles Street. So I picked 3 example houses for this video about a month ago, and I chose houses that were old and that were now public, open to the public, so they were no longer private residences. So this particular one was built in 1853 and it's at 919 Charles Street. So I recommend everyone go to the Library of Congress website to search for Sanborn Fire Insurance Maps. I know that there are some state universities that have maps on their websites. The best place to go though is the LOC website. And I'll include the link to this in the description. I've seen other people on YouTube search for a city in this search bar here. I don't recommend that. Well, for me, I don't recommend it because of my spelling, but also because if you're running into a city that has like an acronym. So I recently was doing a video over St. Augustine, Florida. And if I searched for it in here spelling ST and then space Augustine, it wasn't pulling up anything. And it was because I needed to search for SAINT space Augustine. So instead of dealing with the search bar which is open to errors by the user, I just go ahead and go down here on the left-hand side. I scroll down to my state. So we're looking for Wisconsin. Do Control F, or since I'm on a Mac, I do Command F, and I type in the first few letters of the name to bring it up quickly. And then we're going to Watertown. So I go ahead and do the same thing over here. So this one's got this city has 8 Sanborn maps available. So our house was built in 1853, and we can see that the maps start in 1884, and then every like 5 to 6 years they come out with a new map. So I say let's just pick one right in the middle, maybe this 1901 map. Click on that, and then I do view 16 images in sequence. So right here we see all 16 pages of this map. I'll click on image 1, which has the title information of the city and the county name, the date. Up here you've got the population and then information about water facilities and the fire department, as Sanborn insurance maps were for fire insurance purposes. Then we move down here, and here is the map of the city. This is called the index map, and every Sanborn map will have it, although it won't always be on this first image. And it has all of the streets that they cared about for the map. If it's too far outside of the city limits, they definitely did not include that. And then if it's highlighted here with a number, that indicates what page a close-up view of this area is on, okay? Here's the key with all of the pertinent information related to color coding and the different symbols that are found on the map. And then we have the index down here. It's got the street names, and then specials over here is just a list of businesses, churches, hotels, things like that. Kind of like what you would find in a phone book. So we're looking for Charles Street, and I don't see it here on this map. Okay, well let's go back to the search results and look at the most recent available Sanborn map. It goes up to 1915. You see there's some of these down here, but these are not available online. So we'll go here to 1915, open this up. By this point in time, Watertown has more streets, so they've pushed that index map off of the first page and now it's on the second. So let's zoom in, and I am not seeing Charles Street. So remember, I picked these examples a month ago, so it's kind of like we're going through this together for the first time because my memory is not that great. So let's go over here to Google, and I'm going to type in the address, 919 Charles Street, Watertown, Wisconsin. We'll go to the map. Let me turn off the satellite because we don't need that. We'll just go to the streets. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm going to look for the main streets so that I can cross-reference it back to the Sanborn map. So we've got 12th Street here, we've got Concord Avenue here, and then a connecting street would be Western Avenue. So let's go back to Sanborn and look at the map. Okay, I see it right off the bat. So I see 12th Street here, Concord here, and then what was the other one I said? Western? Okay, Western here. Okay, so it looks like this particular house is going to be in this area that was not specifically mapped out in the Sanborn map of this year. So unfortunately, this does happen. The home should have been here, you would think, because it was built in the 1850s, and we're looking at a map from 1915. I mean, so we're talking like 65 years later, and the house isn't on the map yet. Well, it's because these Sanborn Fire Insurance Maps had a purpose, and that purpose was to be a risk assessment tool for fire insurance companies. So if a house was too far outside of the city center, like a farmhouse or a rural country estate, a fire insurance company was not super concerned about that house, because if it did catch fire, it wasn't going to spread that to other houses in the area. And so not every single house was going to show up on that year of the fire. So not every single house is going to show up on a Sanborn map, even though the years would lead you to think that it should be there. I know this is frustrating from personal experience. My first house I bought was built in 1922, and I looked at the Sanborn Fire Insurance Maps after that for my city, and it did not show up. It was nowhere on the map. And I was so disappointed in that because I really wanted to see it on the map. And the reason for that is because my house at the time was one of the only houses in that area. It hadn't been developed yet. And so there were just a few houses here and there, and Sanborn was not going to send out surveyors to these homes that were outside of the city center because that cost money, it took time, and there was just such a low fire risk that they didn't need to include those homes in their maps. So unfortunately they didn't. However, I do feel pretty confident that my house that I previously owned will show up in future Sanborn maps as they get released, but right now it's just not on any of the ones that are available online. So this house is known as the Octagon House. It was built by pioneer settler John Richards in the 1850s. This 8-sided house was one of the largest homes before the Civil War in Wisconsin. Its only occupants have been members of the Richards family this entire time. In 1938, they donated the house to the Watertown Historical Society, and today the home is open as a public museum. Okay, so don't click off of my video. I've got 2 more houses to go over, and I guarantee you they have Sanborn Fire Insurance Maps. So moving on to example number 2. This house was built in 1861 in Atchison, Kansas. So let's go back over here to Library of Congress website. Back to search results. Okay, let's go ahead and remove our filters because we're no longer in Wisconsin. And let's go over here to Kansas. Control or Command F just to search. And then Atchison. Okay, we've got 9 maps available for this city. So I'm going to scroll down. The house was built in 1861. Let's just skip all these old ones and go straight to the most recent one that's available in 1916. Okay, 34 images in this map. Okay, so here, let's just zoom in and look at this a little bit. So we've got the information up here about the city, the county, the date, May 1916. The population of the city at that time was 20,000. Okay, so we're going to scroll down, and this house is at 223 North Terrace Street. So we'll come down here and look for T. We've got 10th and 3rd. So I don't see Terrace. Okay, well, let's just go to Google Maps. So this time, let's go to 223 North Terrace. Okay, so on this map, we see the Missouri River's right here. We're looking for just some main streets that we can look at and compare back to the Sanborn map to cross-reference. So we have 2nd Street, and what is this one? Santa Fe. Okay, so let's scroll up here. So we've got the Missouri River. We're looking for 2nd Street. Okay, so 2nd Street is right here. Santa Fe. So I'm going to venture to say that this is going to be on page 18 of this map. So we'll go up here to 18, click go. Okay, here's Santa Fe. And this was 2nd Street, this is 1st, and it's at 223. I don't see Terrace, but I see 223 1st Street. When we look at the photo of the house from today, it kind of looks like it's 2 stories, but at the same time, it looks like the roof kind of cuts off that top story. So for Sanborn maps, what they normally do with that is they call that a half a story, so 1.5. And if we zoom in here, okay, we see that this is a 1.5 story house. The yellow of the yellow color coding here indicates that the home was wood frame. And in this photo, you definitely see it's wood frame. D stands for dwelling. So that looks like it's the house. And what I would suggest is that this street was eventually renamed from 1st Street to Terrace Street. So this house is actually the birthplace of Amelia Earhart. Her maternal grandfather built this wood frame Gothic Revival cottage in 1861. She was born in the home in 1897 and then lived in this home off and on through the 8th grade. And then in 1984, the home was bought and then donated to become the Amelia Earhart Birthplace Museum, and it's now open to the public. Moving on to example 3, our last one. And this one's really fun and exciting for me because I've personally viewed this house in real life. So this house was built in 1920 in Abilene, Texas. So let's go back here to our search results, remove the filters, and we'll go down to Texas and then the city of Abilene. Okay, so I said the house was built in 1920, so let's go ahead and see what years are available. Okay, I've got a lot. So let's go 1925. It should be in there. So this house is located at 1726 Swinson Street. So we've got the title page, which is awesome. Look at this handwriting, or look at this title for Abilene. That was awesome. And what blows my mind is that this was all handwritten. Like, I am not artistic enough to do something like this. So I definitely appreciate this level of detail and the ornateness about it. Minimalism is so old. I'm over that already. Okay, so Swinson. Okay, we've got Swinson Avenue, and it looks like it starts at 1900 block, and we're looking for 1700 block. So I bet that 1700 block was not super established in 1925. So let's go to the next available one, which is 1929. Okay, so here's another thing. We've got 2 maps here for 1929. We've got just a regular 1929, that's 87 sheets, and then 1929-September 1950, which is 95 sheets. So what happens here is in 1950, they had a bunch of updates, maybe some corrections that needed to be done to the Abilene, Texas Sanborn map. Instead of sending out surveyors to the city, which by that time was much larger, they just went to the 1929 map. That was the most previous one before then, and they made these updates to that, a copy of that map. So they made whatever updates they did, whether there were new buildings downtown or street names changed, new neighborhoods, maybe a highway went through the city, any of those changes, they drew them out, cut them out, and then pasted them over a copy of the 1929 map. So for our purposes here, I don't really care what's going on in 1950. I just want to see when this house first appeared on a Sanborn map. So we'll go to the original 1929 map and we'll look for our house there. Okay, I love this. Look at this. This is beautiful. If I had any reason to print an Abilene map, I would for sure include this page here, this title page, because I love the way that looks. That is awesome. Okay, stay focused, Jamelyn. We're looking for Swenson Street. So this is a pretty big index, actually 2 pages. So it just goes down to 6th Street or 6th Avenue. Let's go ahead and go to the next page. We're looking for 1726 Swenson. Okay, here we go. So we've got, it looks like it's going to turn up on page 235. Wow. Okay, but we only go up to 87 images. So let's go to the last image available, and that's page 500. So let's go back to like image 80 and see what's there. So, okay, we're down to page 310 now. Let's go back to 75. We're on page 235. That's what we were looking for. Okay, that was lucky. This doesn't happen on all of these maps, by the way. So this one was just kind of a unique one. I have seen this before, but it's not generally how it goes, where you've got to do that guess and check. So we're looking for 1726 Swenson. So here's the 1900 block. Let's move down the 1800 block, and we're looking for 1726. Oh, here we go. So here is our house in question. Look at that. So the 2 indicates it's 2 stories. The red indicates the home was constructed of brick. And we've got this front area that's like a porch. So if we look at the image here, we can see it's definitely a 2-story house. It's got this front porch here. The image here, it looks like it's wood frame. So that is just one interesting thing to note. So when I go to my sheet that talks about what these houses actually were, I see that this house on Swenson Avenue is known simply as Swenson House today. It was built by the Swenson family, and it was originally built on 58 acres owned by the family, and today the property sits on a 2-acre city block. In 1928, the Swenson family completed a major remodeling of the home, adding brick veneer, a grape arbor, and many Spanish colonial revival architectural features. So there you go. That's why this photo was prior to 1929, and this map, what year did we say this was from? We said we said the map was 1929, and they added brick veneer in 28. So this image of the house was before the remodeling, but the Sanborn map captured that. That is awesome. The Swenson home is unique because so many of the original features have been preserved. The home is now publicly open and is available to rent out for events. Hopefully after watching this video, you now have some direction in finding your own home on a Sanborn Fire Insurance map. It can get a little bit complex if you've never looked at these before, and navigating them just from scratch can be a little bit overwhelming. After you've found your house, if you would like a reprint like what I have back here of my house, I do have an Etsy shop where I print these out for people. So if we go over here to montecitoprintco.etsy.com, you can see my shop, and scrolling down, I've got this personalized Sanborn map. So if you click on the link, it'll open up a new window and you can select what size option. I recommend the 20 by 24 inch canvas wraps. So on my wall back here, I don't know if you can see it, but there's 3 of them hanging up. These are all the 20 by 24 inch size. And I love this size because the original Sanborn maps were 21 by 25 inches. So it's super close to the original size. And because these are printed so large, you can see all of these details. So I would recommend, going back to this listing, the 20 by 24. After you select the size, you can come in and enter the personalization. So if you know like specifically what year and what city and what page, you type that in here and get a map ordered. Good luck on your house hunting, and as always, thanks for stopping by.